Well, good morning, everybody. It is really going to be an exciting week. And we are going to talk this week during VBS about somebody that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, a queen. Does anybody remember her name? What was her name? Queen Esther. Queen Esther was married to the king of, not Judah, Persia. Very good. Queen Esther was married to the queen of Persia. Who was her cousin? What was his name? Mordecai. And Mordecai was very, very sad outside the city gates because Haman wanted to kill the Jews. Yes, a man named Haman had come up with a plot to kill all of the Jews. Mordecai was Jewish, his family was Jewish, Queen Esther was Jewish. But Mordecai went to Esther and told her that because she was queen, maybe God had put her in that position to be at that place at that time to save God's people. So she went to the king and she invited him to a banquet together with Haman. They went, they dined. He asked what she wanted, and the king and Esther said, why don't you come to another banquet? They had another banquet, and the king asked her again, what is it that you want? And whatever you ask for, up to half of my kingdom, it shall be yours. And she finally said, if it pleases the king, please spare my life and spare my people. And the king said yes. And then what happened to Haman? He got killed where? Yeah, on the same gallows that he had built to kill Mordecai. He was then hanged there because the king was mad about the plot, mad about him trying to kill all of the Jews. But the whole picture of the story of Esther showed from the very beginning that God had control of the situation. God was in charge of that. God had put Esther in the right place at the right time. Before she even realized why she was there, God had put her in that place to save his people, which showed that he was going to continue to protect his people just like he had made that promise. Because over and over and over again, throughout the Old Testament into the New Testament, we see the times that God has made a promise, and we see that every time that God makes a promise, he keeps that promise. We see it over and over and over and over again. And we see that one of those promises was to give a home and protection to his people. And we continually see that. So in that place where Esther was, Mordecai had enough thought to think, you know what? I'm going to trust that God that's been taking care of us for hundreds of years, and I am going to believe that he is going to continue to take care of us, which he does. So we're moving from the Old Testament into the New Testament, and we see these little pieces over and over and over and over and over again every week of how God is really in control of a situation, no matter what else is happening, and that God's plan will be fulfilled, and that he will provide that protection and that promise fulfillment to his people. So last week, who was here? Who was here last week? Okay, good, a bunch of you. Who did we talk about last week? Shout it out if you remember. Starts with an N. Nehemiah, thank you. We talked about Nehemiah. And Nehemiah what was his job? Cupbearer. He tested the food and drink of the king. A very important job because he needed to make sure that no one poisoned the king. If anybody poisoned it, Nehemiah tested it. Goodbye, Nehemiah, time for a new cupbearer. But Nehemiah was in a very trusted position for the king. And nobody was ever supposed to be sad around the king, but Nehemiah heard news about Jerusalem. What was the news that he had heard? The walls had fallen down. The walls were broken. They were down. The gates had been burned. And the people of God that were living in Jerusalem were open to attack. And it made Nehemiah very, very sad. He was worried for his people. It just made his heart very sad. And the king noticed this. He asked Nehemiah, what is wrong? Nehemiah told him he wanted to go and help rebuild the walls. What did the king say? Yes. Did the king say, nope, I don't want anybody to be sad around me, time for a new cupbearer, go take your problems elsewhere? No, what did he say? Go help. Go build the walls in Jerusalem. And not only did he do that, what did he send with him? Three things. Wood, papers, and guards. Yeah, those three things. Wood to help begin the rebuilding of the gate. Papers that showed that he had been given permission and safe passage by the king to go forth to Jerusalem to do that. And two guards to help him on his way. Now, if you were here, here's what we did. We had a little challenge here. Who was my challenger here that was running through? Yeah. What? Tell me, remind me your name. I'm 8 in first hour. What's your name? What is it? Judson, thank you. So, Judson, and I apologize for not remembering the name. I had a lot of helpers last week. So Judson was trying to get from at the top of the key there at the gym down to here with some bricks to build a wall. I put, I think, a group of first grade and a group of fifth grade, right? Fourth grade. Okay, group of first grade and group of fourth grade. So, it was that group right there. Mr. Danny, do you have fifth grade? Okay. So that group and this group, I think, were my two groups here. So, yeah, first and fifth. I had second and fourth the first hour. Those two, I put him on those two blue lines right there, and I told him he had to go from point A to point B to build the wall. But everybody on either side of him was going to try and stop him. How did he do? How did Jensen do? Did he make it?
Yes.
No, the first time. No, not a chance. He actually did much better than the first hour did. Aiden was stopped every time. Judson did pretty well because the two groups that I picked were a little bit nice to him. They were like, no, stop. But then they got into it. And they were not going to let him pass. So I gave him two helpers, two leaders, Mr. Cody and I don't remember who my other one was. Mr. Sam was first out. Mr. Dan. And so my two leaders to help him get through. How did he do? Did he make it? No problems?
Yeah. No.
He didn't. He still had a hard time, didn't you? Even with these two big guys. Those two lines of first and fifth graders kind of thwarted our efforts of our two very strong, tall, big leaders. So then, if you weren't here, we took every leader in the room, made two lines in the middle, and then how did he do?
Great.
He did really well. Yeah. Because I had a couple of leaders, particularly a female leader back there in the back that will remain nameless, that when I said, okay, leaders, can you come and protect? She was like, I got this. And she did. Nobody was getting to him at that point. He had safe passage all the way here to help build the wall. We talked about how important it was that the king had sent the papers and the guards and the wood and all of those things to help protect him. But we also talked about how difficult it was just for Judson to get from that point in the gym to here with a couple of groups of kids. I mean, you guys are strong, energetic kids. But still, we put about 15 leaders up there to keep him protected. 2 leaders couldn't do it. We had to put all of our leaders there. And that's that little space. So we talked about how difficult it might have been for Nehemiah, how dangerous it was for Nehemiah. Because if anybody had wanted to overtake Nehemiah, it would have been easy. They had armies and weapons. We're not talking about first and fifth graders and a little space in the gym. Miles and miles they had to travel. So it wasn't just the papers and the guards that kept Nehemiah protected, although those were important and part of God's plan. It showed that God was in control the whole time. No one was going to stop Nehemiah because God wanted him to make the journey. And if God wants him to do something, nobody's stopping God. So it was very important that we see that God is in control of the whole situation to protect Nehemiah, to get him to Jerusalem. Now, people were always trying to get to God's people, stop God's people, kill God's people, put them in slavery. They did not like the things that they were saying. They did not want to believe in the one true God. So the people of God were always in danger. And so with the walls of Jerusalem down, they were in a very, very dangerous position. And they were open to all these attacks. So Nehemiah needed to go and build the wall. Well, we got part of our wall built last week, after we had a lot of protection for Judson coming down. But today, I'm going to need us to finish the wall. So I'm going to need a Nehemiah. Let's see. You want to be my Nehemiah? Right there with some glasses on your head? Come on over. All right. Tell me your name. Liam? Liam, you look strong and ready to fight here, are you? Okay, come on over. You own a crossbow. Did you bring it with you? Because I'm going to have to ask you to sit down. I don't want anybody hurt here. You do look dangerous. Are you brave? Are you strong? You look confident. You can do this? You can build a wall? Not that hard, right? Were you here last night? Did you see what we did to Jensen? Okay, I won't do that to you today, I promise. But I'm not going to make it easy on you either, because nothing was easy for God's people. But here's what we're going to do. Liam, I've got some bricks here. And all I want you to do is take the bricks and build a wall right here in front. Can you do that? Easy, right? Especially if nobody's there to stop you. Okay, but there's going to be people to try and stop him, because people are always trying to thwart God's plans. So who can be not themselves this morning, because you are all wonderful, sweet, loving, gentle souls? Who can step out of that and be really mean today?
Oh, God.
Can you be really mean right there? Yep. Come on over. All right, now I need one more.
I go to fighting school.
You go to fighting school. I don't know if you should be that mean. How about right here in the front in the blue and white shirt? Yep, come on up. Okay. You guys can be mean? You look too sweet. Let me see your mean face. I'm not confident here. Let me see your mean face. Okay, you got this. All right. Okay, you think you can be mean to him? Yeah? You're going to dig down deep with the meanness self that you have? Okay, so here's what they're going to do. Even though you are awesome, Liam, I'm going to give them permission to make fun of you if they want to. Tell you that you can't build a wall, you know, because they're going to try and stop you. So here's your job. He's going to try and build a wall. You guys do whatever you need to stop him. Now, I saw how some of you reacted last week when we tried to stop Judson. So no kicking, no pinching, no biting, no biting. Okay? No hitting, no knocking each other down, no crossbows, nothing like that, okay? All right. So all your job is to build a wall. Your job, don't let him. You think you guys can do it? All right, come in close. I'm going to get you ready. Set, and go. As fast as you can, you build the wall. You guys can take the bricks. You can keep him. You do not let him build that wall. Get in there, get in there, get in there. Do not let him build that wall. Be as mean as you want. Yeah, there you go. I gotta dig deep for this mean one. I gotta pick mean or mean. Come on, don't let him build it. Don't let him build it. Take him back, put him in the box. There you go. Don't let him build it. Take him away, put him away. You guys think he's gonna be able to do this?
No. Not at all.
Alright, we'll give him another minute. Not another minute, but another few seconds. We'll see if he can do it. Alright, don't let him build that wall. Get in there. There you go. She's got a mean streak. I see her. I told you she had a mean streak in her. I saw that face. What's the first hit you? Alright, okay. You're not going to be able to do this, right? He's got two people against one. Okay, y'all help me grab those big bricks real quick, put them back in the bin.
Under there.
I'm going to need to give him some help. Who wants to help me? I think I did 5, 6, 7. Right here. I'm gonna stop counting. There you go. Wait, no. I need to do 4. I'm gonna use them right there. Yep, right here. Here. Right over there. Have I used you? Okay, come on up. Here. You get one from every group. Here we go. Go ahead. And right here. All right. So I think I've got at least one from every group, so we're going to have, all of our little tribes around the room represented here. Here's what you guys are going to do. Now, I had somebody switch teams on me. No switching of teams, okay? You're all going to work together. Okay, you're all going to work together, and here's your goal. You are going to help Liam. You can help build the wall, and you can help protect. Okay, so I want you right here, shoulder to shoulder, right at the front, and not you. He's going to try and blend in here. All right, turn around this way so you can see the bricks. Look at me. Shoulder to shoulder. All the way around. Here's the other box.
Just tackle it.
You still have 2 people behind you who are going to try and stop you. But you are shoulder to shoulder working together. No, you guys can do it. Shoulder to shoulder, working together to build the wall. Ready? You guys are still going to try and stop him. Do your best. Ready, set, go!
I think it's this.
You better get that yellow brick behind you. Who's protecting? Who's protecting? There's a yellow brick behind you. Hey, don't be mean, don't push it. You're doing really well. No, you go. All right, really close, really close. Got all the block. All right, awesome. That's the last one here. All right, good. Freeze. We did have a little tower there. That's okay. That's one of the, we'll call that one of the gates. All right, we have these up, so we're gonna put that one back up. All right, move out of the way so they can see. Everybody can see. Move to the sides. They did pretty well. Give them a big round of applause. All right, you guys can head back to your seats. Good job. That's awesome. I'm glad. Thank you for helping. All right. Sit over here. Thank you. Good job. Okay. So, what do you think? Do you think Liam could have done it on his own if I gave him enough time against those two? No, he was one out first. They were getting meaner as they went. But together, side by side, they were able to build the wall. They had to work together to both build and protect. So we're going to see how that plays into the next part of Nehemiah's story. Go ahead and watch our Bible story video.
Nehemiah went to Jerusalem to help the people rebuild the city walls. The people started working together to fix the walls and the burned down gates. The walls and gates had special names. Some of the people worked on the fish gate. The fish gate was the entrance to the fish market. Some people worked on the sheep gate. This gate led to the place men gathered to sell sheep. Others worked on the valley gate, the old gate, and the horse gate. The workers put in doors, bolts, and bars. They cut stones and lifted them into place on the wall, and they filled in gaps and holes. All around the city, people worked side by side. Soon, the wall was half as tall as it had once been. Not everyone was happy that Jerusalem's walls were being rebuilt. Some men who lived nearby were angry. Sanballat and Tobiah mocked the people. Sanballat said, "What do these people think they are doing? These walls are just piles of trash and dirt. They can't be rebuilt." Nehemiah prayed. God's people kept working on the walls, but their enemies made a plan to attack them and stop their work. God's people prayed and assigned men to guard the walls all day and all night, but they were discouraged. "Our enemies are everywhere," they said. Nehemiah reminded the people that God was with them. "Do not be afraid. God is great and powerful," Nehemiah said. "Be ready. If our enemies attack us, God will fight for us." Sanballat and Tobiah could threaten God's people, but they could not make God's people stop building. Sanballat and Tobiah were not in charge of rebuilding the wall. God was. So God's people went back to work. Some stood guard with weapons and others worked on the wall. Some men worked with one hand and held a weapon in the other. They were always ready to fight, just in case. Nehemiah was a wise and good leader of God's people while they worked. He helped them solve any problems they had, and he did not give in to their enemies. The people kept working very hard. In just 52 days, the wall was complete. The gates were repaired, and the wall was restored. When all of Jerusalem's enemies heard that the wall had been rebuilt, they were afraid because they knew God was with his people. Nehemiah led the people to rebuild the walls around Jerusalem to protect them from their enemies. Jesus came to protect us from our enemies. He died on the cross and rose from the dead to rescue people from sin and death.
All right, so were they able to be successful?
Yes.
Yeah, they were. Did you notice how they worked? In the beginning?
Side by side.
Side by side. Side by side, just like we did. They worked side by side to start building the walls. But was it easy? No problem, just start building the walls, work side by side, get it done? Not really. It didn't take them long, but what was happening outside the gate? What was happening outside the walls, the broken walls? Yeah. Yeah, people were mocking them. Do you know what mocking means? What does it mean?
It means like making fun of them, saying like, you can't do it.
Right, so it means, it would be like making fun of, but we're not talking about oh, you guys can't lift those rocks, you have puny little arms, not that kind of way. No, the kind of mocking that they're doing is, your God cannot protect you. Why do you trust in something that is not real? We are going to overtake you. You can put up whatever attempt you want, but we have armies that are going to come and attack you and kill you all. That's the kind of mocking they were doing. So this was not just, your hair doesn't look good. These are things that are really meant to make them question what they believe, make them very, very fearful of what they are doing. And as you begin to hear those things over and over, the people that tell you negative things that really try and get to you, it makes you very discouraged. It makes you nervous and scared, and it does start to question things. But God's people were very strong. Nehemiah was a great encourager, and he told the people, remember, God is here to protect us. God keeps his promises. God wants us to build the wall, so let's pray and ask him for protection. So that's what they did. And then they continued to work side by side. They continued to work with they put guards in to watch and protect. And there were some that even worked and kept a sword in one hand and a hammer in the other to be ready to fight and protect God's people, the city of Jerusalem, no matter who attacked them, no matter who came to face them, whoever came to attack them. How long did it take them to build the walls back?
52 days.
52 days. Less than 2 months. Now granted, they had a lot of people working on it, but they had people outside the gates threatening them, ready to attack them. And it only took them 52 days. They built these big, beautiful gates to each of their areas, the fish market, the sheep, whatever, pasture thing, the horse gate, all of these beautiful things. They managed to get it all done and protected the city and God's people in only 52 days. Is that because they were just amazing?
Yes.
No. They worked very hard. They were not lazy. They worked very hard. But God was in control. And here's the cool thing, you guys. When the walls were built, all of God's enemies outside felt how? What did they think?
That God was on their side and they were afraid that they would lose.
Yeah, they were scared. They weren't scared because all of these strong people built a wall. That's not what scared them. They were scared because they realized that the abilities of God's people were given to them by a great God. They realized that God was in charge of these people, that he was protecting them. They realized that this great, big God was protecting this group, and that made them scared. They were not scared of the little individual people with the swords. They were scared of the great, big God that they could see was in charge and in control. So it just was another thing of God showing he was in control. He had a plan for those people, and he was going to continue keeping his promise to protect them and give them a hope. So I hope that you guys never are in a position where you have to rebuild the walls of a city to protect yourselves from people who are outside with swords, mocking you and telling you that your God is not real. I hope that that never happens. I can't guarantee that it will, but I hope that it doesn't. So what do we learn from Nehemiah's story? Well, we learn a couple of things. We learn that God is in control. We see that all the time. We learn that God keeps his promises. We see that over and over. But here's what I want you to hear out of this story too. Those people that were outside the gates, hang on guys, those people that were outside the gates, they were mocking God's people. They were telling them, your God is not real. Your God cannot handle this. Stop believing. Stop thinking that you are strong enough, that he is strong enough. They were telling them over and over not to believe what they were believing so hard, not to believe that God was going to keep his promises. And those things, you guys, as much as I would love to tell you that they won't, they are going to happen to you. You will have people your whole life that will try to tell you there is no God, or your God is not who he says he is, or he can't do this, he's not really with you, he's not the God of the Bible. All of these things, these people will try and tell you. And I don't want you to hear them over and over and over again and begin to get discouraged and begin to question. I want you to be like the people of Jerusalem, where you face it head on and you pray to that great big God that you know is real, and you know that he is going to be with you and protect you from those people all the time. That he can give you the strength to face that. And here's the cool thing. When you have that strength, when you become kind of the wall yourself against those things, that you stand so strong in your faith, the people that do the mocking see that God is in control of you and your life too. They see that God is big, that he is real, and it begins to change them as well. So don't let them change you. You be who you know you are, who God has made you to be. Believe in what the Bible tells you is true. Believe in that God has a plan for your life, for who you are at this place, at this time. Believe that God keeps his promises. Stand strong in that, and that will change others to believe the same.